So today I want to talk about my experience using the Sony A6700 for the past a couple weeks now, and I used it primarily as a video camera. But since this is a photography related channel, we're going to talk about photography and using this little camera here. Spoiler alert, while I was in South Africa, I emailed the people who I was renting this from and said I want to purchase it. So I did. But let's jump into what this camera is. So this is the Sony A6700. It's Sony's only APS-C censored photography related camera. Now they do have video cameras, the XF30, the ZVE10, I believe, or something like that, like a ZVE camera. But for photography related purposes, this is the only APS-C camera that Sony makes. Now, before I still do, but I was using the Sony A6100. And when this one came out, it actually came out in 3 different versions, right? You had the A6100, A6400, and the A6600. Thankfully, Sony only released one version. I mean, they kind of had other versions. Again, if you wanted a video camera, they had like video focused cameras, but for this channel, we're talking about the A6700. Now, what made me fall in love with this camera and ultimately part ways with my hard-earned money for this camera is the autofocus. Now, let's quickly go over some other things here real quick. If you're looking at the A6100 or even the A6400, or the older version APS-C cameras, this one has an updated processor, so you're going to get a better autofocus and the AI chip, which is legit. I think it is there's a lot of marketing things out with cameras, but the AI autofocus in this camera and some of the new Sony cameras is legit. I'll talk about that here in a minute. You're getting a flip out screen. I'm not saying that's an upgrade, but that's the difference. You're getting weather sealing, which it was in the A6600 and not in the other 2 cameras. Full USB-C ports, like on the A7CR. Meaning, when I say full, I believe it's like the 3.2. Now, I'm not getting technical, but the reason why I'm excited about USB-C on here is not only can you just pull images off without having to take out your SD card, but if you're someone like me who at the time only had one battery, now I have 2 extras because it shares the same battery as the A7CR. You can charge your camera on the go, and it's really nice to be able to do that. If you have a fast charger, you can plug this in, an hour later you're pretty much full. So I love having USB-C, and again, it's one less cord to carry around with. On these cameras here, it has micro USB, and you could charge it, but it was not that good. You can use this as a webcam, which I'm not going to be doing that, but you could if you wanted to. Again, I was using it primarily as a hybrid camera, knowing I was going to shoot a lot of video and pictures with it. That's the main reason why I rented it, but the photography in this won out. Now, this is a photography first camera. If you want to argue and say it's more hybrid than anything else, yes, but it does lean photography first. You do get, I believe, 11 frames per second if you shoot JPEG. If you shoot RAW, it's a little bit less. If you do shoot JPEG, there is a massive buffering that you will get that you will not max out. If you shoot RAW, you will, I did find like the camera did slow down while it was like catching up on all the pictures I was taking. And the reason why I was taking so many pictures is because I got an opportunity to go out to a wildlife refuge, it's a private game reserve, so there was lions, tigers, rhinos, hippos, zebras, like all the things you would see on a African safari they had out there. And I put this bad boy to the test, and it passed spectacularly. That's like literally, we went to this place, and I was taking all these pictures, and I realized I was getting pictures with this camera that I could never get with the A6100. And could I have gotten it with the A7CR? Probably. But having a 26 megapixel sensor, and instead of the 61 megapixel sensor that you get on here, especially since this is an APS-C camera, the burst rate and all like the eye detection and all that kind of stuff was superb. I got more pictures in focus than I ever have taken before, and I have used the A7 II and the A6100 in a similar situations. I've never had so many pictures in focus. And there was one picture, I'm going to put it up here on screen. It was a lion I mean, they're wild animals, right? But it's a lion in the tall grass. And the camera was able to get the lion's eye within the tall grass. And it was amazing. Like, I've tried taking pictures like this, not of lions, but of like other animals, and it doesn't do it. I really had to work or move the focus point to try to get to focus on the eye. No, with this camera, I was able to do that, and it was amazing. It really was amazing. Again, no camera's perfect, but this was really amazing. The other thing that I like about this camera is that it is pretty much the smaller version of the A7CR or the A7C2, meaning the buttons are kind of in the same place and the menus are the same. They're not exactly in the same place, but I'm not doing the mental gymnastics that I have to do sometimes when I'm using my Fuji camera and the Sony camera. And another reason why I am keeping this camera, or I bought the camera, is because I do have APS-C lenses. Now, I will say the A6700 is good enough for 90% of us who are taking pictures, myself included. I take pictures of my everyday life, my wife, my son, my dog, my travels. This will work fine. Now, I know there's going to be people who say, however, I need full frame because I need better low light conditions and better shallow depth of field, which, yes, the full frame does have better shallow depth of field and low light capabilities, but the reality is most of us aren't shooting in those situations on such a permanent basis. And even with that, you can get lenses that have like f1.8 or f1.5 aperture, so you could get shallow depth of field. And how much shallow depth of field do we honestly need? Like, unless you're a professional photographer who's doing headshots and you have to have or you're doing concert photography and you need low light capabilities, and but again, it's going to come down to the lenses, and there's a lot of good lenses, APS-C lenses, that can shoot in shallow depth of field. Also, you can use full frame lenses. I know it's not the same. Please don't kill me, but I know it's not the same. But you could use Sony full frame lenses on an APS-C camera. I think for a lot of people, myself included, the allure of full frame was a great marketing ploy. I will admit it. I have the A7CR. And it's a lot of camera. It might be too much camera for myself. Meaning I'm not shooting concert photography. I'm not shooting, I don't know what else you would use it for, but I'm just shooting everyday, regular day stuff. I do like having the 61 megapixel sensor because I love to crop. And so there are times where I just want to have that sensor to crop in quite a bit. And that's fine. And that's the other thing. It's okay to just say you want a camera for a certain reason. Like, I don't think we have to justify everything to everyone on the internet. I want this camera, the A7CR, because I think it's a fun camera to use, and the A6700 is the perfect complementary camera to go with it. personally, I like having two cameras when I go on vacation and things. One, for redundancy, and two, so I can have a secondary camera to have like a wide angle lens or a telephoto lens or something like that. It's so for me, especially with like the 90 millimeter Sigma lens that I have on here, like this lens on this camera would work perfectly with I don't know, the 18 to 105, or the if I got a 17 to 70 Tamron lens. This would be the perfect combination for like travel photography for me. If we're going on vacation, which we are going on vacation a lot this summer, I could bring these two cameras and maybe like a 24 my 24 f2.8 by Samyang, or even just the Ricoh GR3 Ricoh GR3X, and that would be the perfect camera setup. If I really wanted to, I could pick up the Sony 20 millimeter lens and have like a really small pancake lens. So there's so many options that I have that I could use on this when we go on vacation. And again, it works for me. And that's the other thing that I think we have to, as photographers and people who are on the internet, we have to just be honest about. Photography is a very personal thing. Like the cameras we get, the lenses we use, the pictures we're taking, they're all personal expressions of what we want, what we see in life. And what works for me, because I like the A6100, doesn't take away from any camera that you have. It doesn't take away the fact that you can only get the A6400, or you can only afford the A6600, or you can't afford the A6700 and you have to settle with the A7C2 or something. All right, like it what I use or what other people use doesn't matter. And the truth is, most of the cameras from Canon, Sony, Fujifilm, Nikon, Olympus, Panasonic, they're all really good, especially cameras that have come out in the last 3 to 4 years. Like I think we're at the point, I've talked about like the long-term photography kit and how these cameras are so good now, right? Like I'm never going to shoot in 8K. I'm never going to shoot in 6 point something K. These cameras are so good that I feel like any camera you get, you can create amazing images. You just can. So like the system doesn't matter. Like what camera system you buy doesn't matter. They all will take really good pictures, and it's just more about us, the photography community, just focusing on our craft and getting better. And I can tell you right now, from all the walks I've taken with Pixel, all the times I've been out with my camera just shooting the mundane everyday things and getting used to my camera and understanding framing and seeing things, led me to the point to be able to take the pictures I took in South Africa. That's the truth. It wasn't necessarily the camera. Like, yes, I said this camera created images that I couldn't create with the A6100 or the A6 or A7 II or the XT5. Again, the A7CR, probably because of the autofocus of that camera. But me being in that situation and me trusting myself in knowing the type of shot, like I knew. So this picture here, the lion, male lion with the 3 cubs, I knew the type of picture I wanted. I wanted the motion. I wanted the excitement of what was going on. They were playing and having fun. Like I wanted that to come through. I didn't want like just them stuck in. I didn't want them frozen, right? I didn't want it to be razor sharp and everything was perfect. I wanted that motion, and I knew by upping my aperture, because I was an aperture priority. I knew by upping my aperture, I would slow down the shutter speed. But yet, as soon as I locked focus on the male lion, I kind of moved the camera with him so that I could make sure he was somewhat sharp and the other 3 cubs were in motion, and it worked out. And I took a series of pictures, but it worked out, and I got the image I was looking for. But I trusted in myself. It wasn't just the camera doing the work. It was me working in concert with the camera. And no matter what camera you have, you can get to that relationship. Now, granted, this was a newer camera, but it was like it really wasn't any different than the A7CR. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it was because Sony has the same system, and it's pretty much, not pretty much, but they feel like the same camera for the most part. I was able to do that, and I was able to get this image, and like my image from last year from the cruise where I took the picture of the boat with the gulls behind it and like the sunset and all that kind of stuff, and I said that was the best picture I took of that year. I think this was the best picture I've taken. Well, I know I've taken so far, all the 3 months of this year, but it's going to be hard for me to take a better picture than that. I'm going to try. I have, depends on what's the situations I'm in, but that can only have been done because of all the reps I put in, honing my eye, honing my skills, and just knowing, having faith in myself in being able to capture that image. And yes, the camera helped me, but it was me who took that picture. It was me who had that vision, and it was me who, in the fly, knew how to achieve that goal. And that can happen with any camera we have. It can happen with the phone. It can happen with anything. And I'm not trying to say like the cameras don't matter. They do matter. But also knowing how to use the camera, because I know people who have a Leica camera just because it's a Leica camera, or they have a Sony A1 camera just because it's a Sony A1 camera, and they're not getting the full benefits out of that camera. They need a full frame, fast action camera to take pictures of a kid's Little League game. It is what it is, but that's the reality. I've kind of gotten on a tangent. All that to say, the Sony A6700 is a really good camera for me. And if you are interested in this camera, I think you should rent it. You should try it out. It is a great camera. However, you can get the A6600. I think that's a great camera still. It has a bigger battery, so you're going to get, more images, a couple more hundred, I think up to 200 more images, off of one battery. But you're going to get image stabilization. You're going to get weather sealing. You just won't have the same level of autofocus, but the autofocus is still really good. Like the A6100's autofocus is still really good. I'm not a salesperson for Sony. Sony doesn't know I exist. I paid my own hard-earned cash for this camera. And again, I think it's a good camera. I love the A7CR, and this pairs perfectly with it. Or you say the A7CR pairs perfectly with this camera. Again, I can afford this camera. Please don't try to count my pockets. Like, it is what it is. I can afford it, and I'm happy with what I got. All right, I've been ranting for a while, but if you own the Sony A6700, let me know down in the comments. Join the Discord. Let's talk about it over there. Let's talk about this camera. Let's talk about photography in general, not just the camera gear, because I think camera gear gets overrated here on YouTube. But let's talk about the images we're creating with these cameras, because I'm more interested in that than the camera itself. But I do want to know your experience using the A6700. Not to mention, like, I shot really good video with this. I didn't have any overheating issues. I know that there are true overheating issues if you're shooting like 4K 60 and you're shooting over a 20-minute video. It's going to overheat. I wasn't shooting that. I was shooting 4K 24. So yeah, it was perfectly fine for me. But yeah, for a hybrid camera, this is awesome. For someone who is going to be going on quite a bit of vacations and more hiking trips and some camping trips this summer, this is the camera I'm probably going to be bringing with me as my main camera, along with the A7CR. The X-T5 and the Ricoh GR3X are two cameras I'm going to keep, obviously, because I bought them and I really do like them, but they're going to be more specialty cameras, especially this one here. I do love it. I think it's amazing. I really do like it, but because I have all the glass of the for Sony APS-C cameras, which I haven't been using a lot, this camera will be used a lot more. Thank you as always for watching this video. If you like listening to a middle-aged man who is still sleep deprived from his 30+ hour trip back from South Africa, rant about photography gear, and the philosophy of photography, please hit that like and subscribe button. And please join us over on the Discord. I know I haven't been in there quite a bit for the last 3-4 weeks, but I have posted something in there today, and I am going to be in there more often. This whole trip, and I'm going to make a whole video about this trip, really, it broke your boy. It was a long, exhausting trip, but it was well worth it. Thank you as always for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.